Hello. Today, we have two stories. Let us start with the first one with two updates. First story, title. My 26 girlfriend 24 says she's pregnant, but I'm sterile. I had an accident after finishing college, which left me unable to have children. My family is aware of the accident, but not of this particular consequence. I've always preferred a child-free lifestyle, so this revelation didn't disturb me much mentally. I completed my university degree last year and hadn't dated before then. After graduation, I landed a well-paying job through campus recruitment. My parents pushed for marriage as soon as I secured employment, but I wanted to focus on personal growth and exploration. They disagreed, but relented when the pandemic began. Consequently, I explored various dating apps without success. Eventually, my parents introduced me to a daughter of a family friend, and we seemed to connect. In hindsight, I see my naivete. She agreed with everything I said without ever voicing her own preferences, which I found odd. I was clear from the start about not wanting children, and she surprisingly agreed. I thought she might be the perfect match, considering it's tough to find someone who is child-free in my country. However, I hadn't disclosed my accident to her. A month ago, we became intimate, and I used protection. After that, she began distancing herself, responding less, and with short messages. I assumed she might be reconsidering our relationship. Yesterday, her entire family arrived at my home claiming she's pregnant, and that I am the father. I was utterly shocked and could barely react as they discussed marriage and other arrangements. Update: many of you even speculated that I might not be the father, which added another layer to my thoughts. In response to everything, I decided to take the day off work for a brief call to my boss. I made appointments with several clinics and managed to secure a slot for a paternity test this Friday afternoon. Meanwhile, I went to a local store to buy some pregnancy tests and arranged for her to visit my place the following morning, requesting that she come alone. I also reached out to my parents to discuss the developments. Surprisingly, before I could share anything, my mom excitedly asked if I had any good news. Her question stunned me, and upon probing further, she feigned ignorance. Realizing the gravity of the manipulation at play, I ended the call and spent the night in tears. The first time I've cried like this since my school days. Despite my instructions, she arrived this morning with her parents, under the impression that we were to discuss engagement plans. I insisted that she come inside alone, which caused a commotion among them, but eventually, they agreed. Inside, I handed her the pregnancy tests and pointed her to the bathroom, asking her to confirm her pregnancy. This request led to her yelling at me, an unprecedented reaction from her, and she stormed out to bring her parents inside. The situation escalated quickly, with everyone yelling in my home. Upset that I had asked for proof of pregnancy rather than a DNA test, fed up, I told everyone to leave. An hour later, my parents and her family returned to my house and confessed everything. She wasn't pregnant, as many Redditors had suspected. My parents admitted they were anxious about me getting older and wanted me to settle down and start a family. They believed that in arranged marriages, personal connection between the spouses wasn't necessary, as the parents' choices were deemed optimal. They had orchestrated the entire scenario, waiting only for an opportunity post-intimacy to execute their plan. Overwhelmed by betrayal, I broke down again. I've always strived to fulfill my parents' expectations, excelling academically and never challenging their wishes. In tears, I told them to leave and cut all ties with them, eventually swearing in my native language a severe breach of decorum by our standards, but it signaled my final resolve. Final update. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to everyone who took the time to reach out and offer their advice. These past few days have been transformative. I feel like a significant weight has been lifted, particularly the expectations my parents placed on me. The initial aftermath of our confrontation was chaotic. My parents coerced relatives into contacting me, urging me to reconsider their perspective, which was laughable, but I firmly declined. They ceased their attempts after receiving a stern message from me, demanding no further contact. Additionally, I've scheduled an appointment for a vasectomy next month, as part of my commitment to family planning. Some of you have asked if I plan to inform my family about this decision. The answer is no. I believe in maintaining my bodily autonomy. However, I will be upfront with any potential future partners about my decision to remain child-free and the fact that I've had a vasectomy. Second story, title: Child leaves items on lawn. I accidentally mow over them. Mother demands compensation. My yard is adjacent to my neighbor's property, where they have a concrete basketball court. Local kids often play there and leave their bikes and other belongings on my grass. It's generally not a problem, except when I need to mow and have to ask them to move their stuff. This was my first mow of the season, and the grass was a few inches taller than usual. While I was mowing, one of the kids came over and, despite seeing me, placed his basketball on my lawn. As I approached the basketball, I attempted to gently push it aside with my mower, making eye contact with the kid several times, signaling him to move it. He didn't, so I nudged it with the mower. It rolled over to a freshly mowed section, but as I continued, I heard a loud clunk and realized I had run over his iPhone. Understandably, the kid was upset about his broken phone. I felt bad, but it seemed like he should have moved it or mentioned it was there. About 30 minutes later, his mother came over, insisting that I was responsible for replacing the phone, and should have instructed him to clear his belongings, emphasizing my role as the adult. I apologized for the incident, but politely declined to pay for the replacement. She left angrily, threatening that I would end up paying, and mentioned she might involve a lawyer friend of hers, hinting at potential legal action. Now, I'm left wondering if I'm legally obliged to replace the phone and whether settling out of court might be more cost-effective than facing legal proceedings. Update: the boy's mother and he came to my doorstep around noon, offering apologies. She admitted to having initially thought I had intentionally run over his belongings, as a lesson about leaving things in my yard. Thankfully, her son took responsibility for the incident, which I found quite mature for his age. She explained her overreaction by mentioning the financial pressures of being a single mother and her inability to afford a replacement phone, which is also her way of keeping track of him while he plays. I mentioned I had a spare phone, an iPhone 7, whereas his was a 6 South. Reflecting on advice from commenters, I suggested that instead of just handing over the phone, he could earn it by helping me clean out my detached garage. He seemed thrilled at the prospect of getting a phone, and she gratefully agreed to the arrangement. An hour later, he returned alone, and we began the cleanup, which took us about 4 hours. The tasks weren't demanding: moving and stacking firewood, breaking down and bagging boxes, and sweeping. Afterward, we shared some pizza and a Coke, and then I gave him the phone. During our time together, I advised him on being more mindful of where he leaves his belongings, cautioning that things might not always resolve as favorably. I also offered him a job mowing my lawn for $30 each weekend, which he eagerly accepted, already planning to save up for new video games. We planned out his earnings so he could manage to buy a game after a month, including an arrangement to cover the taxes with an extra chore. I hope this experience imparted the right balance of responsibility and kindness, reflecting the lessons I've learned from growing up with a single mother myself. My own son is just 2, so this was a significant moment for me to share some fatherly advice. I appreciate all the guidance from this community. It truly helped me navigate this situation.